Good evening all, and welcome to round 4 of the Tier 1 Small F1 League. This weekend we're in a very wet Austria for short qualifying, followed by 36 high-speed laps around the Red Bull ring. We're getting underway pretty shortly. Let's just have a look who's going out. That looks like it is Noah. Let me just verify the names here. That is actually TJ. I'm going to have to change some of the file names if you stand by with me for a second. But we'll just follow along for a bit of time with the Alpina TJ, who's filling in today as a reserve driver from Tier 2 after a pretty good race yesterday, also around this track. But drivers so far looking like they're going to be going out on the wet tyres. Very, very wet track indeed. If we look at the weather forecast very briefly, it does look like it's going to be clear in 15 minutes time, and the rain will be getting lighter, so we could see drivers switching over onto the intermediate tyres. That's going to be interesting to see as the track gets quicker and ramps up. I need to find some time at some point to change this Alpine's driver number, because currently he's showing up as Noah, but it's not Noah, it is TJ. But TJ is starting his first lap. Of course, it's a very, very quick lap around here, around the Red Bull ring. So, across the line he comes into the first corner, very tight right-hander. We've got 3 right-handers here into turn 1, making sure you don't breach track limits there. Take a bit of curb onto the the second DRS straight rather, of the lap. The obtusely named turn 2, of course, is a best first sector as things stand, but no one else has set a sector to beat that yet. Onto the second DRS zone here. Big run down the hill towards turn 4, which can be a very tight one. It's the scene of many accidents in races gone past. Even yesterday in Tier 2 we saw quite a few tangles around here, but looks like that's not Noah once again. Looks like TJ's operating that Alpine perfectly through there, just making sure once again you don't breach track limits. This track, of course, being the home of many track limits violations in real life there. Sorry, I got rid of the lap time, I didn't mean to. But it looks like that fastest first sector has already been beaten by another driver, not sure who, but it does look like there is a McLaren stricken up at turn 3. I wonder if that's related perhaps, but we'll have a look in a bit as TJ goes to the top of the timesheets, setting the benchmark of a 117.3. Let's see what else other drivers can do. See, is that a Ferrari? That is a Ferrari. Is that Ferrari ending the lap? That Ferrari is ending the lap and goes 1.5 seconds clear of the reserve Tier 2 driver. The reserve driver here from Tier 2 today. Not a bad effort at all. These are very challenging conditions, but the conditions look like they're going to be changing. Who else is on a flying lap? Let's have a look. Deffy doesn't look like he's on a flying... Maybe he is on a flying lap. No, he's not. He's well behind the Delta. Kevin, however, just a 10th off the benchmark time set in the first sector. Just confirmation there that the fastest first sector was set by Deffy. Looks like it was that McLaren that was stricken at the top of turn 3. We'll have to have a look. We've still got just under 14 minutes left of the session. Nearly 0.2 of a second off the time set by TJ at the end of the second sector as Ski Block. And then TJ goes one better and leapfrogs Felix back onto provisional pole. Not bad at all from the Alpine reserve. Kevin just ran in the final couple of corners, keeping it within track limits in the challenging conditions. Where can Kevin put it? Kevin puts it on provisional pole, beating the... That's not TJ. That is a different Williams driver. What's his name? His name is... This is Husky Snack. I don't know what his real name is, but you're going to have to stay with me for a second, because it looks like some drivers are using the wrong numbers currently. I'm going to try and get some confirmation on what the correct names are for now, but just stand by for a moment. But for now, Kevin leading from the as yet unnamed Williams, leading from Felix, from Swixy, from Ski Block. The Red Bulls locking out the back end of the second and the third row there. But just stand by for 1 second. As Zisel goes 5th place of 7, that's probably not where he's aiming to be, but we've got a long time left in this session, and track conditions may well be improving. Still, light rain just 10 minutes out. We're not going to get to slicks, I don't think, as Snox goes slowest so far, but we'll have to have a look. Are there any other drivers? That is a very slow-moving Alpine, just emerging from the pit lane there. Nothing out of the ordinary there, but Deffy's out on a lap, and don't discount the McLarens. The McLarens, of course, currently leading the Constructors' Championship and looking to make some gains on Lewis Jones, who's absent today and is not going to be able to, and is actually looking to lose that that lead he has at the top. But Deffy just 0.4 of a second behind the Williams there. But what can he do? Don't discount him at all. Did the Williams have a slow final sector? We'll have to see, because the benchmark is Kevin just keeping it on the lines. I think that's one thing that's very admirable to see from the McLaren driver, his ability to just keep it on the lines, but he is 0.6 adrift of his teammate. He's going to be wanting to improve there. But not a bad effort from the McLaren so far. Definitely looking like favourites to make some gains up the table. As Snox improves to go 5th fastest. We got one driver left to set their time. Who is that? That would be SJ. I don't know why. Oh no, SJ is P10. I don't know why we've got an 11th driver on there. Is that Swixy? No, Swixy has set his time. I'm not sure why we've got a blank P11, but SJ does improve, beating their temporary reserve teammate there, but still 3 seconds off the pace. Probably not where they're aiming to be at the moment. Okay, just stand by as Kevin improves his time once more to a 1:13.9. Not bad at all. Snox goes 4th fastest in the Mercedes. Just stand by. I'm just going to try and fix these driver numbers for a moment. Okay, we've corrected the I believe we've corrected the numbers there, and that is Rogue, who was very briefly on provisional pole there, but there's a yellow flag in sector 3. I think we saw a glimpse of that there. That was a McLaren. Oh, and also that's an Alpine in the dirt there. That's TJ just looking for a gap to safely rejoin. You see their teammate just going past for today. TJ opting to rejoin the track there. Not the most ideal scenario to be in, but we'll have to see how drivers can respond. So we've got just under 8 minutes remaining of the session, and we've got Kevin leading from Rogue in the Williams, from Deffy, from Snox, from Swixy, from Felix, from Zisel, from SJ, the previous season champion, from Ski Block, from TJ. Still quite a while to go, and conditions will be improving. Got a yellow flag in sector 1 for unspecified reasons. That looks like that is... Oh no, never mind. I thought that was a Williams that was going to be low on fuel, but let's follow along with the Williams as he just rounds the final corner there for his... Oh, he'll have a couple more flying laps. This is a very short lap around here, around the Red Bull Ring, so it's going to be quite a bit of time before we see the full picture. But it's going to be a trade-off between the Williams and the McLarens here today, seeing what he can do. But he's 0.2 of a second off Kevin already just through the first sector. Personal best, so he will improve, but he's going to have to do better than that. As he goes down the the third consecutive straight. Expect to see a lot of DRS chicken depending on the racing conditions. Of course, if it's like this, we won't see any DRS at all, but it is a 36-lap race, so at the very least one would hope for some mixed conditions, because otherwise that is going to be a very tiring race for all the drivers. Just rounding the corner there, bit of a slide, but 0.3 of a second, just losing another tenth there. Going off. Is that going to be a retirement? No, but it is a new front wing. Unfortunately, it's going to be a new front wing for the Williams. I think he's just about going to have enough time to head back into the pits and correct that. Just as he was improving as well. Maybe he wouldn't have. He probably wouldn't have leapfrogged Kevin there, but it's obviously never nice to lose a lap like that, especially when you're improving it. And the lack of grip, you can just see there, lack of grip in the wet, especially, is not going to be ideal for that driver. So into the pits for the Williams. Let's have a look at Deffy. How's Deffy doing? Deffy on a lap at the moment. Let's wait for the thing to load. It's not a personal best so far, but is it perhaps a double push? Or a build lap. Let's have a look as Deffy's pushed behind by Swixey in the Red Bull. Is he going to do a double push? He's only got half his DRS remaining, but DRS operates pretty differently in the wet. You're able to conserve a lot more, and obviously Deffy being a pretty talented driver, he's going to be able to use that to his advantage. But he is half a second off his teammate now in the... just through the first sector, so probably not where he's looking to be. Deffy, I wouldn't discount him normally for provisional pole, but it does just look out of reach at the moment. But maybe we'll see what happens. But Swixey has just retired from the session. I think that was in the sector ahead. Just keep an eye out, see what's happened here. That is a Red Bull stopped on track for reasons unknown. That is a Red Bull that was damaged. It had some, I think it was missing its front right tyre or something. So we're going to have to see probably what happens there in the post-race interviews if we hold them. But Deffy not improving on this lap, but it's not clear if he's pushing. No, this was definitely this was a recharge lap. You can see the ERS has been charged up, and in fact it's an in-lap. So Deffy coming in possibly one more time. I mean, this is a driver who knows the out-lap times for every track pretty much. But as I say that, we've had our first move to inters, and it is Kevin, the current provisional pole sitter, probably feeling like he has nothing to lose. He's half a second ahead of the next driver, probably thinking that this light rain, as it's currently described, may give way to some faster lap times. So there's probably, as we also see Ziesel switch over to the intermediate tyres, is Snox. Let's see what Snox is doing. That driver looks like he's recharging. Yeah, that driver is not on a push lap. So obviously, you know, wet qualifying, it does mean that the drivers are going to retain all of their tyres for the race. So it does shake things up a bit, especially with regards to safety cars, which are all but inevitable in the small F1 league. Only 10 drivers though today. So everyone, as long as they get the checkered flag, is eligible for points. But Snox is improving through this lap, and he was only 1.1 seconds behind at the end of the second sector, which would be an improvement on his 1.5 second deficit to the lead set by Kevin. Rounding the final couple of corners, keeping it within track limits, Snox, let's see where he can go. Will he improve to supplant Deffy? No, he doesn't. He improves by 1/10 of a second, stays in 5th place. But we've had our first intermediate runner emerge from the pits, and it is Ziesel. We're going to have to see how this driver copes. Honestly, it's too early to say from this point of view. Obviously, it looks very wet here, but it does look like the rain has eased up. So it would be probably prudent, as Defi and Kevin are now emerging from the pits one after the other. It's going to be worth watching those laps as well as they happen. There's a slow-moving Ferrari on the first lap. Let's see what Ziesel can do though. In the Haas, of course, being the first intermediate runner, he's actually just not going to get a chance to redo his lap, so he's going to have to make this one count. 6th place is the worst. At the moment, he's in 6th place. He's going to be wanting to improve. We've got 2 McLarens ahead. Will he be able to navigate that traffic? As that is, I believe, Defi over there. Did that distract Ziesel? Of course, when you have cars parked along the side of the road, that's never ideal. But Ziesel now going through. Oh no, I got the lights confused with them harvesting. He's obviously not harvesting at the moment. As he just rounds turn 4, very, very tight, but keeping it on the track. Glitching just a bit. It's difficult to say if he's taking the optimum line, but there is a Ferrari ahead. Let's ride on board. Is he going to get impeded by the Ferrari? It was an edge case. I think that was just about okay, though. Swerving just a bit, but 1.3 seconds off already. That's not a personal best in the second sector, so I think maybe that's disrupted his focus, but these are the last 2 corners that really matter. If you can nail these last 2 corners, especially in these 2 conditions, you do get dividends. So let's have a look. Let's ride on board. Bit of a slide. Is that glitching? Is that slide? I'm not too sure, but where does Ziesel end up? Ziesel ends up 2.1 seconds behind. Looks like he kind of gave up on that one. But we've got a lot of drivers starting their final flying laps. But Defi catching the checkered flag there. Very, very unlucky. He's not going to improve from 4th place. Defi getting caught out there by the checkered flag. His teammate can only do his best to cement his lead. But it does look like he's not going to get bothered, because Rogue has also caught the checkered flag on the intermediate tyre. So it's up to Felix to score an upset. And that driver is ahead of him. Let's see how Felix is doing. Going through turn 4 currently, the long right-hander into the sort of sweeping left-hander. It is a personal best for Felix. Let's just ride along, see where he is. He was 1.9 seconds behind at the end of his last flying lap, as TJ goes 8th placed. But this looks to be a substantial improvement for Felix. If he can keep this sort of pace towards the end, he would probably be a shoo-in for the second row, which would supplant Defi in 4th place, which is probably a huge disappointment for the McLaren driver, but again, not one to discount him during the race. As Felix rounds the final corner, this will be his final lap, and he goes onto the front row as Kevin also cements his place, as SJ goes up into 6th place and Snox into 7th. That was pretty exciting. Stand by for the official results. So we've got Kevin on pole position, followed by Snoopy in the Ferrari, Rogue in the Williams, Swixey in the Red Bull. Defi, huge disappointment for him, just getting caught out by the checkered flag. Poor timing there. SJ in the Alpine, I'm sure very, very happy with a P6 start. Snox in the Mercedes, Ziesel in the Haas, TJ in the Alpine, and Ski Block in the Red Bull. But this is only a field of 10 cars, and it's a very short lap around here, so expect some very, very close racing and the potential for some safety cars. Stand by. Okay, and it seems to be lights out and away we go. I didn't get any warning for that whatsoever, but Kevin gets away well, but there's a bit of glitching going on as Kevin gets away very, very well. Swixey just losing a couple places there, but Felix also managing to get away well, and up into second place is the Ferrari driver. Defi also gaining a position there. I'm not sure what's happening with the possible race strategies, but we're having a lot of drivers all the drivers starting either on mediums or hards. We got a long way to go in this race, so that does stand to reason. They're going to be wanting to make as few stops as possible. We've got a lot of drivers there, almost four abreast going into turn 4, and they just about keep it clean as there's a Red Bull, that's a Haas driver that's off. That is Ziesel. Snox well behind. I'm wondering if that Mercedes driver is carrying any damage. But very, very close between the top 6 drivers at the moment, but Kevin kind of running away with it. It's Kevin leading from Felix, from Defi, from Rogue, from Swixey, from SJ and TJ. We've got the J's over in the Alpine, but they are front to back over there. Kevin setting the fastest lap, having led that first lap, but TJ just getting a run on their teammate at the end of the first lap, and Kevin already out of DRS range. I think Felix is going to be wanting to get away from Defi as soon as possible, because that McLaren is very, very racy indeed. You can see how tight he's taking those lines and making sure he can use the as much of that track as possible. As we just enter the second lap of this race, as I say, it's a very, very short lap with 3 consecutive DRS zones. So we're going to be playing a lot of DRS chicken today. Looking at the positions gained and lost, we've got Defi up 2 positions, TJ up 4 positions. Of course, the Alpine driver was very, very speedy yesterday, scoring a 6th place. Swixey up 3 positions, but Ski Block up 3 positions, but their teammate Swixey down 4 positions. They're in 7th and 8th. But a lot of things going on. Let's ride on board with Defi at the end of the second lap, as Kevin sets another fastest lap. Will he be beaten? He isn't beaten. He holds that fastest lap. Rogue just missing out there. Not sure what's been going on there, but Felix is being put under a lot of pressure here. And they're side by side going round turn 2, the sort of nebulously named turn 2, and going into turn 3. Who's going to brake later? Ooh, it's not too clear, but Defi is ahead, albeit maybe not without DRS. Let's have a look. I don't know who has DRS. It's not clear at all who got the DRS there, but neither of them was using it. So it's a McLaren 1-2 at the end of midway through lap 3, but possibly not for too long, as Kevin and Defi are going wheel to wheel around the very tight left-hander there. Of course, no space at all. You need to be using absolutely all of the track, so you've got to be fully aware of the size of your own car. But things are very, very close further down the track, as Ski Block is putting TJ under a lot of pressure. Just TJ leading that midfield pack. But Defi now setting the fastest lap, possibly looking to put his own teammate under pressure. I wonder if there's going to be any team orders at play here, or if they're going to try and protect each other or play their own game, because obviously if they start fighting, then they're going to lose a lot of time. But it is Kevin leading from Defi, from Felix, from Rogue, who's down a couple positions, as Ski Block makes a pass on TJ on the straight, but TJ is going to have the advantage of DRS. Let's have a look. Looks like Ski Block's just getting better traction on those medium compound tyres, but TJ on those hard compound tyres. Hopefully he's probably going to be looking to get some benefit towards the end of the race, as the Alpine very nearly collects their teammate there, but the Red Bull putting SJ under a lot of pressure. Let's just have a look. SJ just being passed there. Red Bull 5th, Alpine 6th, Red Bull 7th, Alpine 8th. It's a Red Bull / an Alpine sandwich over here. And Felix still just putting Defi under pressure, so really not much margins here between the drivers. No retirements yet. Ziesel, unfortunately, just off the back, but being trailed by Snox in the Mercedes. We'll have to see what ends up happening there. We'll just keep an eye on it. But the fastest sectors, as things stand, currently, Sector 1 held by Swixey, Sector 2 held by Kevin, who and Sector 3 held by Rogue, which means Defi, despite not holding any of the single fastest sectors, is the most consistent as things stand, but that is liable to change, of course. Weather looking stable for the remainder of the race. Felix not letting go of that second place possibility, and Defi just keeping the gap to Kevin. I'm not sure if that's deliberate, but let's just have a look. Defi, just losing 1/10 of a second, but we'll see how that gap has changed on this lap as we just enter the we just end the fifth lap of the race so far. I wonder if there's been any track limits warnings yet. We'll obviously hear the first of it. No, Defi losing another half a second there to his teammate. There may be some pacing. I'm fairly sure these two are probably in a call together coordinating. But no matter what happens, that Ferrari is looking very racy and looks like he's going for a lunge on the inside, but just backs out of it, thinks better, takes a wider line, tries to get better traction, doesn't quite have it, but does have the DRS. That rear wing wide open, offering up to 12 miles an hour or about 20 kilometers an hour of benefit down the straight, but not fully using it. Feels like there's a very strategic game being played here between the Ferrari and the McLaren. We're back to Ferrari and McLaren, that age-old rivalry, just like the good old days of Formula 1. Further down the grid, we've got the Red Bulls currently running 5th and 6th. They're 5 seconds or about 6 seconds adrift of Rogue, who's kind of running his own race at the moment, just off the back of Felix. But let's just actually evaluate Rogue's pace here. Rogue not losing that much time to Felix. Felix is obviously on the attack, so even gaining some time there. I know, losing some time was Rogue, but just keeping within touch, not far from DRS in fact, but will probably be very keen to get on the back there, as there is a DRS train just beginning to form from 5th to 7th place. Excuse me. Having said that, towards the back of the grid, these are still points paying positions, but Snox now just half a second behind Ziesel, looking to double his points haul and see if he's going to make a lunge into turn 3. No, he thinks better of it. Both drivers here on the medium compound tyres, but pretty much equal traction, which is going to benefit the driver with the DRS, as Snox makes a move onto the grass. Not sure that was entirely needed, but they are neck and neck going into the 4th corner. But Snox is ahead, gaining that position off Ziesel. Is Ziesel going to be able to respond? Let's have a look. Just keeping it tight, but Defi scoring the first 3-second time penalty for track limits of the day. The disappointment continues to mount, but we know how tight Defi likes his corners, so he may want to switch up his strategy, because it looks like he's playing a very strategic game. He's just managing that gap to his teammate of 2.5 seconds. So I have to see what goes on here. He really, really likes using all of the track available. If you look at the way that he drives, it is absolutely mesmerizing. So worth keeping an eye on. But it looks like this is the fight ongoing. I don't know. It looks like that. Looks like this battle is very, very strategic here. If we have a look at the tire wear for the different cars, we've got Defi on about 20%, and Felix pretty much on the same amount of tire wear. So it's very, very even between these two drivers. Of course, both these drivers. Felix scoring a win on his debut, and Defi too, I believe, also scoring a win, which, you know, both very impressive drivers, both absolute pedigree, among the finest. But we are where we are, and we are on lap 10, nearly on lap 10, and the pit window for those hard tyres does look to be around lap 10, so expect to see a slew of pit stops fairly soon. As Felix looks like he's not using DRS for whatever reason, but there is DRS chicken going on here as as Felix makes a move on the inside and gets the DRS. He's waving the DRS there at Defi. These two playing a very, very sly game, almost a form of dance, it looks like, between them. Very, very delicate between the two. Let's see if they're able to just keep it tidy between them. They absolutely are. It's kind of a thing of beauty in many ways to watch these two race, given their immense talent and their great pace. Having said that, Kevin's beginning to run away with it, and with that 3-second time penalty, Deffy's really going to want to start thinking about building that gap, if not on this stint, on the next stint. But Felix, having started on the front row, probably very dearly like to improve that third place position to a second. And whilst he doesn't have it on track, he does have it on the timesheets, and that is probably the most important thing. But we'll have to see, as Felix, we can see the two drivers here. I think Felix slightly with a bit more DRS, but getting slightly compromised on the exit there of turn 3, using that DRS to full effect, just being pulled along there. Rogue monitoring the gap as Snox makes a pass for 8th place, just making moves. I'm not sure if that was perhaps an error by Swixey. Let's just have a ride back there. No, Swixey just getting past Zesol, who's not having the most amazing race, having lost how many positions? Lost 2 positions. Swixey down 5 positions. Not where the driver wanted to be at all. No one wants to be at the back. But Ski Block picking up the second 3-second time penalty of the day. That pushes him down currently to a net 6th place, just losing that position to SJ. But drivers across the grid, even though we don't get the we can obviously evaluate the warnings in the race director, but we'd much rather wait until the actual penalties are given out. Just a reminder for the context of this race, as of Monza, pre the results, which are still pending appeals, Lewis Jones is currently in the lead of the championship, but Lewis Jones is not here today. The Haas driver is absent, meaning that Kevin is actually the favourite to take over the lead of the championship by quite some margin, with the 26 points that he currently stands to make. In the context of the Constructors' Championship as well, McLaren will increase that lead by quite some margin, and Alpine will also probably, it looks like, improve their position, having been ahead of the Mercedes. We'll have to see what happens with regards to the Red Bulls, because things are still pretty close. But the battle for second and third is still far from over, as Felix is just maintaining that half a second gap between him and second place. Probably just making sure, or perhaps waiting for a safety car. Of course, the drivers are pretty spread out now. The entire field now spread. Let's have a look. Switch to leader. Yeah. The entire field now separated by 28 seconds over the entire lap, as Felix goes very tight, loses quite a bit of time mid-apex there to the McLaren driver, but just about holding to half a second. It doesn't look like Deffy's fighting this one too hard, just regulating to 2.5 seconds. These drivers, they don't think so much in pace so much as their strategy. Always thinking about what the next move is. Massive advantage of having great rigs that, of course, Felix and Deffy use. But that's why they're in Tier 1. So Kevin leading 2.5 seconds still by leading his teammate by 2.5 seconds. And Deffy just maintaining that half a second gap behind Felix, who doesn't seem to be fighting too hard. Rogue just falling behind now. He was around 2 seconds behind just a couple laps ago, but that's more like 3.5 seconds. But he's got a pretty sizable interval to him between him and Ski Block in the Red Bull. The closest battle on track at the moment that isn't between these two drivers is between Ski Block and SJ. Or even Snox and Swixey. A lot of drivers beginning with S here. But yeah, we'll just keep an eye out and see how this battle continues to unfold, because there's obviously only so much I can say without action on track, but I am going to keep an eye out. But Deffy scoring another 3-second time penalty there. That's 6 seconds down the road he's going to be now, and in the context of the entire race, that would actually put him in P4 as things stand. Kevin in the pits first, but But TJ also scoring a 3-second time penalty. That's the 4th 3-second time penalty we've seen in the race. Defi inherits the lead, but not the net lead, given that time penalty. So we'll have to see what happens. I'd be surprised if Defi may choose to pit this lap. Those hard tyres could probably go longer, but things are very, very close here. Is Felix having a go? It doesn't look like, is it? We'll have to see if there's a lunge. Is there going to be a lunge? There is going to be a lunge by the Ferrari driver, who's now alongside, but very close. Is that contact? No, they're just about keep giving each other space. There's a bit of a squeeze here between the two drivers. Are they going to make contact? No, they just about stay clear. These corners are incredibly treacherous for any drivers. We saw massive crashes both yesterday at both the previous two corners. So to see two drivers go wheel to wheel like that, it's incredibly heartening to see two drivers do so without taking each other out. But this is it won't be a net lead because obviously Kevin is just on his outlap from the pits. He's gone onto another set of medium tyres, it looks like. Which is interesting because that does mean that he's going to have to commit to another pit stop, which may speak to his confidence perhaps about the pace and how he's managed the pace of the race. Of course, the field was separated by 28 seconds just a couple laps before he pitted, so that's probably something he's considering. But Felix and Defi just keeping this dance up. As SJ is just overtaken by the net race leader of Kevin, who's now just 13 seconds behind the lead of the race. Of course, the pit loss here is not insignificant. You do have that inside line, it being a clockwise track. You do have the inside line when you choose to pit, but Defi just staying out for yet another lap. I think this may be a battle between Kevin and Felix, probably Defi looking to hold Felix up as much as possible. And we'll have to see. Of course, these 3-second time penalties can't be served during the pits. So if there is a safety car, that's going to count against Defi's time pretty substantially, as Kevin sets another fastest lap, improving his previous lap time by quite a substantial amount, a 106.125, which is pretty speedy indeed, around the fastest lap time set by Ethan in yesterday's Tier 2 race. But Ski Block has retired from the session. I'm not sure for why, for what reason that was. If that was in the pit lane or something. Maybe it was in the pit lane. Yeah, I think that may have been. I think that was a pit lane. Sorry, I'm just trying to determine. Yeah. Ski Block, I think, opting to voluntarily retire there, but there is a yellow flag in Sector 1 for that Red Bull, which has for some reason come back out onto the track. But that Red Bull is out of the session for whatever reason. I'm not sure if that's for lag reasons or other. But the current race leader, that's Defi, on a pit window currently of lap 18. Of course, we are going to see. Let's have a look at the tyre wear on that car. That is a very tyre worn. That's a very worn set of hard tyres there. About 50%. Felix just with a slight tyre advantage, but not really making use of it in any way. Against the other McLaren driver. But things still pretty close. I think SJ may in fact be looking at a. Actually, no, maybe not. SJ, I don't think, is looking for a podium here. Can we see the number of pit stops? Yes, we can. Kevin with 1 pit stop. Still to pit. Defi, Felix, SJ, and TJ. 2 Alpines, a Ferrari, and a McLaren. I would be surprised if. I think Defi will be expected to pit soon, if not the next lap, probably not long after, because those hard compound tyres are really, really fading. Especially with his teammate Kevin, who has pitted just 8.5 seconds down the road. But Rogue picking up a 3-second time penalty once again. Another driver picking up a 3-second time penalty for warnings. It looks like that may have been. I wonder where that was, actually. I'm not sure for what that was, but let's have a look at SJ, who's now in the pits. Pretty alright pit for SJ, 2.2 second pit. Let's see where the Alpine driver will come out. Of course, drivers without penalties are going to have a massive advantage here, so they're going to be incentivized to keep it within the lines. But it's always a trade-off in F1 between using as much of the track as possible and risking track limits breach, as well as being. It's always a trade-off between the two, meaning that if you choose to prioritize not getting track limits breaches, you may end up being slower, which causes drivers to take risks. But as I say that, Defi opting not to pit. Felix in the pits now, so probably thinking he can perform the undercut on the McLaren driver. Of course, that McLaren is carrying six seconds worth of time penalty, so depending on where Defi emerges after his pit, it will be pretty interesting. Felix comes out, 4th place. In other words, let's have a look when the timing updates. He comes out 19 seconds behind the current race leader of Defi. That's not going to be enough for the McLaren driver. I get the feeling Felix is a favourite here to overtake and reclaim that 2nd place. Let's just have a quick look. Pit stops. Well, having said that, Rogue now in net 2nd place, having a quietly decent race, is the Williams driver. But, yep, that looks like Defi, the current race leader, into the pits. Let's just follow along, see what he can do. Making sure he doesn't pick up another 5 second time penalty. He manages to avoid it. And makes his stop. That's a 2.2 second stop, as it always is. And back out into the race. Let's have a look. He's overtaken by Rogue off the track. And it's going to be very close between him and Felix. Let's have a look. Felix does manage to get the overtake on Defi, but Defi is going to be on the fresher tyres. Question is now for Kevin, who I believe hasn't yet run the different compound tyres to the mediums, meaning that he is going to have to make another pit stop, and we don't have red flags enabled in this race, which means that he's not going to get the advantage of a free pit stop unless there's a safety car, which is not outside the realm of possibility, but this hasn't been the closest race. If you look at the intervals on the left hand side of the screen, you can see only a handful of drivers are within DRS range. So it's not over yet, and don't discount drivers like Rogue or even drivers like Felix who haven't yet got time penalties to make a comeback in the second half. But again, this is a pretty short lap, meaning that as Defi picks up another 3 second time penalty, things go from bad to worse for the McLaren driver. That doesn't yet affect his positioning, as the next driver down the road is SJ, who's 18 seconds behind, but it does give SJ something to think about. But it does look like the pace is on Defi's side tonight. Let's just ride on board as Defi is. I think we've swapped places, haven't we, between the McLaren and the Ferrari, with Felix now in 3rd place, with Rogue up ahead. As I said, I think Rogue's had a quietly good race. He's definitely looking on for a podium at the moment. As things stand, he's going to get superseded on the timesheets by Felix, as Felix has a slow apex there, just gets caught out, a slight slide, and that gives the position on track to Defi. That's going to be slowing Felix's race down. The more that these two fight, the further down the road Rogue is going to be able to get, and that's going to be music to his ears, because the gap has already widened. It was at one point under a second. It's now, they just lost half a second just in that couple of sectors. But do not discount Defi, who's also got a lot of pace. I think it's very, very evenly matched between these two drivers. Looking at the tyre wear, obviously these two drivers now running on the same set of tyres. Defi on 6% tyres as Felix makes a move in the DRS zone. Defi not really fighting that one, knowing that he's going to get DRS. That gap to Rogue once again closing down to under a second, but and both drivers now having DRS, so that is really important for Felix, because it is going to make Defi's life harder as Swixey picks up a 3 second time penalty for track limits. there's now a fight on track for the podium positions between second and fourth place, although Defi does look to be discounted with that 9-second time penalty. That said, Felix has just left the session, which means that his car is currently controlled by AI. That does leave a pace impediment for the Ferrari driver, which has allowed Defi to get ahead. I didn't realise, but it seems like he's got front wing damage as the American McLaren driver, which I'm not sure where he picked that up. Possibly in the contact with Felix during the battle before the pits. But Defi has an opportunity here while Felix is out of the session to build a gap as well as get ahead of Rogue. Of course, that 3-second versus 9-second time penalty does mean that Defi's going to have to be 6 seconds up the road in order to gain the position on Rogue. Rogue not really doing much to fight that, and already 0.8 of a second behind. I think Felix, I don't know if he's a fan of Lewis Hamilton, but it may just be hammer time for the McLaren driver if he wants to gain that 1-2. Sorry. But Defi already 2 seconds ahead of Felix. He's got 13 laps to build a 9-second gap to Felix. He's got 13 laps to build a 6-second gap to Rogue. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that we're looking at a McLaren 1-2 here and maximum points as Defi sets the fastest lap. It does look like that McLaren is incredibly locked in now. As the gap now is up to 1.5 seconds. Rogue without DRS. Felix also without DRS. It does look like Felix is out of this, is not present in this race at the moment and is being controlled by an AI. Because he had substantial pace and was actually looking to catch the Williams driver, but I'm sure the Williams driver's not going to be too fussed about that. He's going to be music to his ears, but no one within DRS range at the moment, which is a pretty rare thing in this league. But Kevin pretty comfortably leading now by 9 seconds to his teammate, who currently holds the fastest lap of the race. I imagine the team principal of McLaren, DMA, is going to be incredibly pleased with this. Because it would signify a cementing of their Constructors' Championship lead by yet more points. That would be 44 points, the maximum on offer for two cars. That gap now up to 2.4 seconds. Gaining 1.2 seconds on the last lap alone is Defi. He's really making those medium compound tyres work for him. Even though he's got that 9-second gap, it looks like he's really pushing. I think most impressively, he's not giving away his ERS foolishly. He is obviously using it as Felix has rejoined the race, and it is going to be damage limitation. It looks like for Felix. I think he's on for a podium given Rogue's 3-second time penalty. But the question is whether he can respond to Defi, who's obviously just pulled out that massive gap. The gap now between Defi and Felix up to 7 seconds. So things not looking ideal for Felix when it comes to the battle between him and Defi. I think this could just be a masterclass in damage limitation and taking the lines that you want and mitigating the damage with just sheer pace. Defi now beginning to gain on his teammate even. I don't think he's going to be able to make the pass on the timesheets, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility for him to make the pass on track. He was half a second quicker on the previous lap. Both the drivers on medium compound tyres. I'm sure that Kevin is going to have to make another stop. And as things currently stand, that would put him out in 4th place. Which would be a pretty substantial turn of fortunes, given that he's been comfortably leading this race from the beginning. So he's almost certainly looking for a safety car. I'm just going to be checking the comms to see if he's actually changed his tires. Yeah, that's Kevin coming in now. 10 laps to go into the pit lane for a new set of tyres. I'm guessing these are going to be soft compound tyres for not only the fastest lap, but also to pursue an aggressive strategy as his teammate passes him, as Rogue passes him. And how close is it going to be? It's not going to be close at all. He's substantially behind Felix, so he's not only going to be able to have that pace, but he's got quite a bit of work to do. He's not made it easy for himself here, but it is an aggressive strategy, and he has got 10 laps to make it up. 10 laps to build up, let's see, 10 laps to build up, 3 seconds to Felix, who is within the 3-second time gap to Rogue, who's within 6 seconds of Defi. So as things currently stand, Defi does lose that first place to Rogue, but things are still very, very close. There's a lot of maths going on here, because obviously there's a lot of track limits. This is well known about Austria. A lot of drivers are prone to getting track limits, and the fastest drivers will push the tracks to their absolute limit, as drivers like Defi do. You can see he has the most amazing. Was that? Did he cross pit entry? I'm not going to speculate there. That I wasn't sure about that. I know that was. I beg your pardon. That was Rogue into the pits there. Looking like for a set of soft compound tires. If he's tuned into the stream, he's probably heard that Kevin pitted. Meaning that he comes out in 4th place, quite a way behind the McLaren driver, but possibly looking to make up some time and even go for that fastest lap. He's 13 seconds behind Kevin, which would put him around 15 seconds behind Felix. Unless he would need to gain about 2 seconds a lap in order to make that pass on Felix, not counting his time penalty. So things are very close indeed, but that does mean life is easy for Kevin, who is within just about, it looks like he's going to be within DRS range of Felix, who is within the 9-second gap of Defi. So even though it won't be a pass on track for the McLaren driver, it does look like it's going to be a net win for Kevin, who's going to be, and who sets the fastest lap at 105.945, very, very quick. Thinks better of it in turn 1. Will he make the move through turns 2 and 3? Let's have a look. DRS wide open. Is he just going to wait for that DRS detection point? He decides to go for the nicer line. Stays right on the back of the Ferrari, who's on the older medium compound tyres. This is a very aggressive strategy that looks like it's paid off for the McLaren driver, as he makes the pass for the lead and is within the 9 seconds of his teammate, meaning that is a pass for the lead. Question is, can Defi respond with pure pace? This is honestly going to be a time trial between the two drivers, but as things stand, Defi is 1.5 seconds slower than his teammate. So I think these two drivers are probably going to converge more than anything else. We've still got 7 laps left of this race, and at the current rate of pursuit, it looks like Kevin's probably going to catch his teammate on track as well as off track, as he currently has, beating his previous fastest time by 1/10 of a second and going 2 seconds quicker than his teammate. That gap now down to 6.5 seconds. I think Kevin's had he's had an absolute textbook race here. Has the McLaren driver. I think that is a Haas getting lapped there just by Felix. Zisel not having the best race, but finishing on track, I'm sure he'll be pretty happy. Zisel with the DRS, I think he's just going to want to keep touch with Felix to make sure that he can get, to perhaps see if he can get a slipstream that will help his fastest lap. But we'll have to see. Let's actually see what Zisel's fastest lap is. Current gap to Snox is 64 seconds. Not ideal at all, but the driver ahead. Best lap by Zisel is 0.3 slower. That would be a 107.8. Doesn't improve that. I think that may have been his outlap. Let's just have a look. Yeah, I think that was an outlap for the Haas driver. But Felix just letting the Haas go. I think he knows he's got the podium in the bag, so knows probably better than to fight that too much. But Felix, having had a very, very clean race, probably just caught out on the offset. We've had no safety car periods, which is pretty wild. Hang on, I just need to plug in my controller. Beg your pardon. There we go. Back again. But yeah, Felix probably not wanting to give any benefit to the Haas driver who's just ahead of him now, which does mean, actually no, he's been passed by the leads, which means that Zissou will finish a lap down. Which whenever you're towards the back of the grid in a race, I think that's never too much of a bad thing. But Zissou's got to be careful not to pick up another time penalty with those blue flags for not getting out of the way, because it is a problem if you don't let the other driver out the way. But let's have a quick look at the lead race for the lead. Kevin now 3.8 seconds. It seems like that rate of pursuit has slowed somewhat, as Kevin was 1.5 seconds quicker than Felix and was an unspecified amount quicker than Deffy. But Swixey picking up another 3-second time penalty. That adds his total up to 9 seconds. That will count against him towards the end of the race, but looks like he'll retain the position just about. As the gap reduces further just around to 3 seconds, it looks like Deffy's beginning to control the pace here, but nowhere near enough to retain that lead, as he's within 9 seconds. But he's got about a 6-second buffer, has Kevin, behind him to Felix, which is coincidentally the buffer to Deffy. As things stand, Deffy may even be looking to lose third place, but he's gonna have to. It's honestly, it could go either way at this point in time. Let's just compare the tire wear. Felix on 45% tires currently. Deffy meanwhile on 40% tires. He did pit later, did Deffy, and used those medium tires to great effect, especially when Felix unfortunately lost connection. I think that has rather scuppered Felix's chance of a surefire second place finish, but it's not over yet. We've got a lot of races. We've got 3 laps left of this race. As the lead driver, that's currently Deffy on track, it's just starting to come up on Snox, who's the next driver to be lapped in the race. The current field separated by 1 lap. Snox, obviously, a lap here is about 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds. 1 minute and 5 seconds, rather. And Kevin just within 2 seconds now. So still pushing is the McLaren driver against his teammate. He doesn't have zero. He doesn't have zero wear. Don't pay attention to that. But he is still gaining by around 0.8 of a second, which would translate to a to an overtake by the end of the race. So we'll just ride on board, see how this unfolds. As this is actually the closest battle on track, I believe. Oh no, it's not. We've got a battle between Swixey and SJ, but Swixey not looking to gain any actual positions on account of the time penalty, so probably SJ not fighting that one too much. In practice, with only 2 laps left of the race. But we're on the penultimate lap for the race leaders, which means that Kevin's going to want to get a move on, and it does look like he's going to be, as Felix now picks up a 3-second time penalty, which has made life slightly harder for him. I think that's ended his chances of another podium position. He's going to retain that podium position of 3rd, but he's not going to be able to get 2nd now because he's only within 9 seconds. This has now pushed that gap down to 6 seconds that he requires against Deffy's 9-second time penalty. Again, lots of maths, I apologise. But it's been all about the McLaren drivers as they just round the final couple of corners of the penultimate lap. SJ making another pass on Swixey. Again, 2 drivers still trading places, probably looking to keep it clean here, but Swixey just winning out there. You can see in the corner of your screen on the map. I wonder if there's any team orders at play, if they're trying not to battle too hard. Let's just ride on board with Kevin, who's still got the fastest lap of this race, but and I'm not sure that there's going to be too much that Deffy can do here. He's on more worn tyres, and yeah, he lets his teammate pass. But it's a very much controlled McLaren 1-2. I can see they're both in the voice channel together, which means that they are going to be coordinating somewhat. But it's been a very controlled race, and very well managed. I think credit where credit's due. It wasn't an optimal as Deffy makes another pass. Kind of that ballet we were talking about before, the two drivers side by side, as they round the final couple of corners. It's all about the guys in papaya, as Kevin picks up a 3-second time penalty there. I don't think it's going to mean too much in the grand scheme of things, because he's within 6 seconds of Deffy, which is really all he needs. As they round the final couple of corners, Deffy on track, but Kevin in practice. Two drivers side by side as they cross the line, take the checkered flag. Absolutely textbook from Kevin there. Who takes the win from his teammate Deffy, who had some awesome damage limitation there. And then Felix taking away third position. Pretty decent race from him, albeit probably not where he wanted to be. Swixey picking up another 3-second time penalty there just at the end. That will hand that position to SJ come the checkered flag. But we got a lot left. A lot of drivers left as Swixey crosses the line. SJ in 4th place. Rogue down to 5th. Pretty decent race from him. TJ, the tier 2 super sub for today, having had a pretty decent race yesterday in Austria, repeats the feat today. Ends P7. I'm sure he'll be very happy with that in a race one tier above where he is. And finally, Snox and Z-Salt crossing the line to take 8th and 9th position. So it was a pretty exciting race across the board around the Red Bull Ring, with the McLarens taking a 1-2. You can see the best times on the fastest lap, very, very close there between Kevin, Deffy, and even the Williams of Rogue in P5. Solid race from Felix, who unfortunately suffered from some connection issues, it looked like, through the middle of the race, which I think scuppered his chances at a 2nd place finish. SJ having an excellent race, gaining 2 positions, as well as TJ in the Alpine also gaining 2 positions. Ski Block retiring, unfortunately, our only retirement of today, due to unspecified reasons that we aren't sure of yet. Stand by for some potential interviews, but if not, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've got the race classification and we've got a Discord call full of the drivers. It's not full of all of the drivers, but it's got a lot of them here. First up, let's start from the rear. Snox, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Nice. It was a pretty alright race from you today. How do you think it went for you today? Even though you lost one position, but how do you think it went?
Yeah, obviously lost one position. I was at the back of the grid on the start because I got taken out turn 1. Then after, I believe, lap 8, I realized that I had front wing damage. Had the box and take the new front wing. And the game screwed me over with my fuel. I put one lap more of fuel in. Game let me start with 0.4 laps less. And getting fuel back in this game is, for some reason for me, even with left and coast, pretty bad. But P8, solid race, and had a nice battle with Cecil.
Yeah, decent. Next race, let me just check. Sorry, I didn't have the.
Is Jeddah.
Next race is Jeddah. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. As some of you might know, last season this was my first podium, and I'm feeling pretty confident about Jeddah, so we will see next week.
Bro, thank you very much for joining us, Snox. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up the grid, N, also known as TJ. TJ, this week, another week, joining the Tier 1 as a super sub. How'd you find it?
It's pretty good. I have a pace, but not completely. I'm not in the top, but still points. I'm happy to give my team good points because it's my team. And I'm only Tier 2 driver, but driving Tier 1 as a reserve mostly when someone else can't. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Do you think that this is helping your Tier 2 career as well, like getting the extra practice with some like different drivers? Do you think that's? I mean, especially this weekend, obviously, given that you had a pretty good result yesterday as well. Let me just check. You were P6 yesterday.
6.
Yeah, P6 yesterday in
Austria
as well.
I need to say it's a good practice because I'm mostly driving against some drivers that are mostly better than me. And I'm going to need to be consistent more and like get more pace.
Brill. Thank you for joining us, N.
You're welcome.
And yeah, cool. Moving on, who else do we have? We don't have Swixie, we don't have Rogue, but we do have SJ. SJ, are you there?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Hello. Pretty decent race from you. You gained 2 positions. How did you feel? How did the race go for you?
The start was alright, and then I don't know what happened, but I lost a bunch of places. Luckily I managed to get them back. Not many battles, but of course the sandwich there with the Red Bulls and my teammate. That was pretty fun. Fighting as well with Swixie at the end there. We touched at a moment in turn 3, I believe. Yeah, but in general, it's been a boring race, but fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think we're obviously everyone is pretty frustrated when when we have like a certain amount of safety car periods and whatever. But it was a pretty clean race all around. Are you expecting the same in Jeddah? And how are you feeling about Jeddah, I guess?
Remembering what the race last time in the last season was, I'm not excited. But it's gonna be an interesting one, and I think for Jeddah it's just important to stay between the white lines, not get any penalties, and don't crash out in the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you very much, SJ, and congratulations on the solid points.
Thank you.
Okay, and while we were talking to SJ, I spotted Cecil joined. Cecil, are you there? Do you wanna be interviewed?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Well, Cecil, obviously it wasn't the race that you were looking for, but still solid points nonetheless. How do you feel that race went for you?
Well, I got a bug, so I had to leave, and I rejoined. And the others were already in turn 3. I took over the AI. I didn't realize I had wing damage. Drove for like 10 laps, lost like 10-20 seconds, and then realized pitted. And yeah, just drove to the end.
It is what it is. Perhaps a race to forget. How do you think this? How do you think this impacts your perhaps like your position in the championship? And again, as I've been asking everyone, how are you feeling for Jeddah?
Jeddah's definitely gonna be an interesting one because there's definitely gonna be a lot of crashes. So just stay out of trouble and don't get pins.
For sure. Well, thank you very much, Zisel, for joining. Moving on, we have Felix. Felix, are you there? Hello. We cannot. Are you?
My headset was mute.
All good. All good. Well,
I
congratulations.
was stubborn mute. I was stubborn mute.
It's all good. It's all good. Well, you lost a position, but it was still a pretty solid race there. And as I said in the stream, I don't know if you were logged in. It was pretty beautiful to watch you and Defi kind of like trade positions there. But yeah, like how did that race go for you?
Yeah, for me it's my first podium with I drive since 2 weeks without RBS, so it was my first race without RBS on the podium. It's got a P2, but I got a disconnect from the game. Not good, but it was a IQ race. Just hold the position. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
like a train, like a train the whole race.
Yeah. It was a very entertaining race to watch. I think between yourself and Defi. And yeah, as you say, unfortunate to see that you got disconnected halfway through. How are you feeling for Jeddah?
Fuck up.
Alright. Well, congratulations, Felix, on the podium. Commiserations for missing out on second place but well done nonetheless. Moving on. Defi, are you there?
I am.
Well, it was not an ideal qualifying, and obviously, and your driving style obviously lends itself to track limits penalties, but you made the most of it. How does it feel to be on the second step of the podium in spite of all that?
I think that was probably one of the worst races I've ever driven. My banker somehow started me in the third row in quali, which I was super surprised about because of how much the conditions improved.
Mm-hmm.
In the race, I just couldn't keep the car on track. I think has to do with the fact that I'm not focused at 10 a.m. in the morning, but that that's what I have to do to drive in here. In my last stint, you can definitely tell I was getting way more consistent because I was more warmed up. I got out of bed like 10 minutes before the race started. That's what I've been doing lately.
I got it.
Because it's just
what
happens.
For sure.
And me and Felix, I feel like we would have had a good battle, even if I didn't get my pins. And I got damaged, I think, as you know, on when he disconnected. His AI basically turned into me in the fast section. So I had damage for the last stint. And I think I could have beat Kevin if I didn't get my pins.
Yeah, I mean,
but
there was no doubt you had absolutely fire pace, and as you say, in that second stint, it was very, very impressive the way that you began to pull away from Rogan Felix.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you feeling for Jeddah next week?
It's my best track, so high hopes.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations again, Defi, on what you say was your worst race, but was actually pretty good, I think, by most people's standards.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our race winner, Kevin. Are you there?
Hello.
Well, congratulations, Kevin. That's another win in the bag. And
Thank you.
It looked absolutely in control at all times. I think I had some doubts personally when you opted to go for the second stint on the mediums, but I mean, the aggressive strategy absolutely worked, and there was absolutely no doubt about that. But yeah, how does it feel, I guess?
Yeah, it feels great. I just wanted to have some fun on the two-stop.
Yeah.
Because I knew Defi had some penalties, so I didn't really have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just drove 36 laps in basically all on my own.
For sure. And if I'm not mistaken, this does move you to the head of the Tier 1 standings. So are you looking to be the next champion? Do you think you can keep this up?
Of course, I think I can. I have driven 3 races now, won all 3. So I think it's a pretty good start.
For sure. I think we're going to have to get used to hearing the Dutch national anthem in the virtual sphere as well as the real sphere. No, congratulations, Kevin, and thank you for joining, everyone.
Thank you.
Here ends the stream. This is the first time we've obviously put this on YouTube, so I hope this works out, and it will be archived. Thank you for joining us. Next week we're going to have Jeddah tier 1, but we also have Brazil in tier 2, so be sure to tune in for that. Where I believe SJ may be commentating. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Thank you for joining, everyone, and we'll see you next week.